Maya had forgotten what sunlight felt like on her skin. For 5 long years, she had lived in the underground facility, hidden from the world above. The concrete walls had become her universe, and the artificial lights her only source of brightness. She was 23 now, though she sometimes felt much older. The facility was not a prison exactly. Maya could move freely within its boundaries, but those boundaries were strict and absolute. She had her own room, a small library, a training area, and access to a cafeteria where she ate meals with a handful of other residents. But she had never seen the sky, never felt rain, never breathed fresh air since she was 18. Dr. Harrison visited her every Tuesday. He was a kind man with gray hair and gentle eyes, but Maya knew he was studying her. He would ask questions about her dreams, her thoughts, her memories. Sometimes he would show her pictures and ask her to describe what she saw. Other times he would have her solve puzzles or perform strange tasks that seemed to have no purpose. Maya knew she was different. She had always known. Even as a child, she could do things others couldn't. She could move objects without touching them. She could hear thoughts that weren't spoken aloud. She could see things that hadn't happened yet, though the visions came in fragments like pieces of a broken mirror. Her parents had been frightened when these abilities first appeared. They had tried to hide her gift, to make her suppress it, to pretend she was normal. But normal was something Maya would never be. When the government agents came for her on her 18th birthday, her parents had cried, but they had also seemed relieved. "It's for your own protection," the lead agent had told her. His name was Agent Parker, and he had a scar running down his left cheek. "There are people who would use your abilities for harm. Here you'll be safe and you'll learn to control your gift." Maya had believed him at first. The facility seemed comfortable enough, and the other residents were like her, people with abilities that the world wasn't ready to understand. There was Marcus, who could become invisible, Sarah, who could heal wounds with her touch, David, who could phase through solid objects. They were her family now, the only family she had known for 5 years. But as time passed, Maya began to understand the truth. They weren't here for protection. They were here to be studied, tested, and prepared for what she didn't know. But she could sense it in the way the scientists watched them, in the way the security guards' thoughts leaked into her mind when they weren't careful. The facility had levels, and Maya had only ever seen 3 of them. She knew there were more below, deeper underground. Sometimes residents would disappear, taken to the lower levels for advanced training. They would return changed, quieter, with a distant look in their eyes that Maya found deeply unsettling. Maya's routine was always the same. Wake at 6, breakfast at 7, training from 8 to 12, lunch, more training from 2 to 6, dinner, and then free time until lights out at 10. The training was supposedly to help her control her abilities, but Maya suspected it was to make her abilities stronger, more focused, more dangerous. During telekinesis training, she learned to move heavier objects with greater precision. During telepathy sessions, she learned to dig deeper into minds to find hidden thoughts and buried secrets. During precognition exercises, she learned to focus her visions to see further into the future with more clarity. Maya excelled at all of it, much to Dr. Harrison's delight. She was his star subject, his greatest success. But with each passing day, Maya felt less human and more like a weapon being forged in a furnace. The other residents looked up to her. She was the strongest among them, the most gifted. Marcus would often ask her to use her precognition to see if they would ever leave the facility. Maya had tried many times, but the future beyond these walls was always cloudy, uncertain, as if something was deliberately blocking her sight. On quiet nights, Maya would lie in her narrow bed and remember her life before the facility. She remembered her mother's laugh, her father's terrible jokes, the way her cat would purr when she scratched behind its ears. She wondered if her parents ever thought about her, if they missed her, if they regretted letting the agents take her away. Sometimes, Maya would catch glimpses of the outside world through the thoughts of the scientists and guards. She saw images of cities, of people living normal lives, of a world that had moved on without her. Technology had advanced, fashions had changed, new movies had been made, and Maya had missed it all. The facility had its own ecosystem of rumors and whispers. The residents would share theories about why they were really there, about what the government planned to do with them. Some believed they were being prepared to be super soldiers. Others thought they were meant to be spies or assassinators. A few optimistic souls still believed they would eventually be released to use their abilities to help people. Maya had her own theory, one she kept to herself. She believed they were being prepared for something specific, something big. The training was too focused, too intensive, too purposeful to be general preparation. The scientists were building them up to be tools for a particular job, and Maya had a sinking feeling that job would not be something she wanted to do. But Maya was patient. She had learned patience in her years underground. She played along with the training, excelled at the tests, and kept her growing suspicions to herself. She watched and listened and waited for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right chance to learn the truth about why she was really here. That chance would come sooner than she expected, though not in the way she had imagined. The facility's carefully maintained routine was about to be disrupted by a summons that would change everything Maya thought she knew about her purpose, her captivity, and her future. The underground world that had been her prison for 5 years was about to reveal its true nature, and Maya would finally understand why they had kept her hidden for so long. The alarm that woke Maya was different from the usual morning chime. It was sharp, urgent, cutting through the artificial dawn of the facility like a knife. Maya sat up in her bed, immediately alert. In 5 years, she had never heard this particular sound. Red lights flashed in the corridors as Maya opened her door. Other residents were emerging from their rooms, confusion written on their faces. Marcus materialized beside her, his invisibility flickering as his concentration wavered. "What's happening?" he whispered. Maya reached out with her mind, trying to catch stray thoughts from the guards and scientists who were rushing through the hallways. What she found made her blood run cold. Fragments of urgent communications, mentions of Code 7, immediate deployment, and the commander wants her now. "I don't know," Maya lied to Marcus. She had learned long ago that sharing her telepathic discoveries only caused panic among the other residents. Dr. Harrison appeared at the end of the hallway, flanked by 2 guards Maya had never seen before. These weren't the usual facility security. They wore black uniforms with no identifying marks, and their thoughts were completely shielded from her probing mind. That alone was enough to tell Maya that something significant was happening. "Maya," Dr. Harrison called, his usually calm voice tight with tension. "You need to come with us now." Maya didn't move. "Where are we going?" Questions later. "Move now." One of the black uniformed guards spoke, and his voice carried an authority that made Maya's spine straighten involuntarily. Sarah grabbed Maya's arm. "Don't go," she whispered. "You know what happens to people who get taken to the lower levels." But Maya could see in Dr. Harrison's eyes that this wasn't a request. This wasn't even an order she could refuse. This was inevitability, the moment she had been unconsciously preparing for since she arrived at the facility. She walked toward Dr. Harrison and the guards, acutely aware of her friends watching her go. As they moved through corridors Maya had never seen before, she tried to memorize every turn, every door, every detail. The facility was much larger than she had realized, extending far beyond the 3 levels she had called home. They descended in an elevator that required 2 key cards and a biometric scan. The levels flashed by on the display: B4, B5, B6, B7, B8. Maya had lived on B2. She had never imagined the facility went this deep. When the doors opened on B8, Maya stepped into a world that was completely different from the sterile, institutional environment above. The corridors here were wider, the lighting more sophisticated. The walls were lined with monitors displaying maps, satellite feeds, and data streams she couldn't decipher. People in military uniforms moved with purpose through the hallways, and Maya could sense the weight of their thoughts even though she couldn't penetrate their mental shields. This was a command center, a hub of operations that had been humming with activity directly beneath her feet for 5 years. They stopped at a door marked only with the number 1. Dr. Harrison turned to her, and for a moment his professional mask slipped. Maya saw something in his expression that might have been regret, or perhaps pity. "Maya, what you're about to see and hear must never be shared with the other residents. Do you understand?" Maya nodded, though she understood nothing at all. The door opened and Maya found herself in a conference room unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were covered with screens showing locations around the world, real-time feeds from what looked like conflict zones and government buildings. At the head of a long table sat a woman in a military uniform, her hair silver, her eyes sharp as steel. "Commander Rodriguez," Dr. Harrison said. "This is Maya." Commander Rodriguez studied Maya for a long moment, and Maya felt the strange sensation of someone trying to probe her mind, while simultaneously blocking Maya from probing back. It was a mental chess match that lasted only seconds before the commander smiled. "Impressive shields for someone so young," she said. "Dr. Harrison's reports didn't exaggerate your abilities." Maya remained silent, taking in the room, the people, the technology. There were at least a dozen individuals present, all in military uniforms, all watching her with expressions that ranged from curious to calculating. "Sit down, Maya," Commander Rodriguez said, gesturing to a chair across from her. "It's time you learned why you're really here." Maya sat, her mind racing through possibilities. None of them were good. 5 years ago, when we brought you to this facility, we told you it was for your protection. That wasn't entirely a lie, but it wasn't the complete truth either. The commander leaned forward, her fingers steepled. "You were brought here to be prepared for a mission that only someone with your specific combination of abilities could accomplish." "What kind of mission?" Maya's voice came out steadier than she felt. 3 days ago, a group of terrorists took control of a nuclear facility in Eastern Europe. They have 43 hostages, including several world leaders who were attending a climate summit nearby. The facility is heavily fortified, surrounded by military forces from multiple countries. But no one can get close enough to mount a rescue operation. Commander Rodriguez pressed a button, and one of the wall screens displayed a satellite image of a concrete complex surrounded by armed vehicles and soldiers. "The terrorists have psychic abilities, Maya. Enhanced humans like yourself, but trained for destruction rather than control. They can detect any conventional approach, predict military tactics, even influence the minds of approaching soldiers. Every attempt to breach their defenses has failed." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "And you want me to go in there? You're the only person we've found whose abilities are strong enough to get past their defenses undetected. Your precognition can navigate their predictions. Your telekinesis can neutralize their weapons. And your telepathy can locate the hostages and coordinate a rescue." The room fell silent except for the hum of electronic equipment. Maya looked around at the faces watching her, all waiting for her response. "What if I refuse?" Commander Rodriguez's expression didn't change, but Maya caught a flash of something cold in her thoughts before the mental shield slammed back into place. 43 innocent people will die, Maya, including a 12-year-old girl who was visiting the summit with her environmental activist mother. But more than that, if the terrorists aren't stopped, they plan to cause a nuclear incident that will kill hundreds of thousands more. Maya closed her eyes, reaching out with her precognitive abilities. She tried to see the future, to glimpse what would happen if she agreed or refused. But the visions were fragmented, chaotic, blocked by forces she didn't understand. When she opened her eyes, Commander Rodriguez was still watching her. "How long do I have to decide?" "The mission launches in 6 hours, Maya, with or without you." Maya realized that her 5 years of hidden preparation were over. The real test was about to begin. Maya sat in the small preparation room, staring at the black tactical suit laid out on the metal table. 6 hours had passed like minutes, filled with briefings, equipment demonstrations, and tactical planning sessions that made her head spin. She had agreed to the mission, though she wasn't sure she'd had any real choice in the matter. The suit was unlike anything she had seen before. Dr. Harrison explained that it was woven with special fibers that would enhance her psychic abilities while protecting her from mental attacks. There were devices built into the fabric that could amplify her telekinetic force and extend the range of her telepathic scanning. "The suit will also monitor your vital signs and brain activity," Dr. Harrison said as Maya examined the strange material. "If something goes wrong, we'll know immediately." "And what exactly can you do to help me if something goes wrong when I'm surrounded by psychic terrorists in a nuclear facility?" Maya asked. Dr. Harrison's silence was answer enough. Commander Rodriguez entered the room carrying a tablet displaying the mission details. "Your insertion point is here," she said, pointing to a location on the satellite map. "The facility is surrounded by a 3-kilometer exclusion zone. Our intelligence suggests the terrorists have psychic sentries posted every 500 meters. Maya studied the layout. The nuclear facility looked like a fortress with high walls, multiple buildings, and limited entry points. The terrorists had chosen their stronghold well. How many enhanced humans are we talking about? Maya asked. Our best estimate is 7, possibly 8. Their leader goes by the code name Cypher. He's the most dangerous. A telepath with the ability to control multiple minds simultaneously. Intelligence suggests he's been gathering enhanced individuals for years, building this group specifically for a mission like this. Maya felt her stomach tighten. She had spent 5 years training against ordinary humans and practice scenarios. She had never faced another enhanced individual in actual combat. The hostages are being held in the main reactor building, Commander Rodriguez continued. They're valuable to the terrorists as long as they're alive, which means Cypher won't kill them unless he feels completely cornered. Your job is to get in, locate the hostages, neutralize the psychic terrorists, and signal for extraction. Neutralize, Maya repeated. You mean kill them? The commander's expression didn't change. These individuals have murdered 18 people in the last 3 days, Maya. They're planning to cause a nuclear disaster that will kill hundreds of thousands more. Yes, I mean kill them. Maya had never killed anyone. In 5 years of training, her targets had been practice dummies, simulations, and controlled scenarios. The idea of actually taking a life made her hands shake. I've never, Maya started. I know, Commander Rodriguez said, and for the first time her voice carried a hint of sympathy. Dr. Harrison tells me you have a strong moral compass. That's exactly why you're the right person for this mission. A killer would go in reckless, driven by bloodlust. You'll go in careful, precise, focused on saving lives. Dr. Harrison handed Maya a small device that looked like a hearing aid. This is a communication link. It will allow you to stay in contact with us during the mission, but use it sparingly. If the terrorists detect the signal, they'll know where you are. Maya put on the tactical suit, surprised by how light and flexible it felt. The moment the helmet's mental enhancers activated, she gasped. It was like having her abilities suddenly amplified by a factor of 10. She could sense the thoughts of everyone in the facility, from the soldiers on the upper levels to the scientists in the laboratory wings. That's normal, Dr. Harrison said, noticing her reaction. The enhancement will feel overwhelming at first, but you'll adjust quickly. Just remember to maintain your mental shields. The suit amplifies everything, including your vulnerability to psychic attack. Commander Rodriguez checked her watch. Transport leaves in 10 minutes. Maya, is there anything you want to know before you go? Maya thought about all the questions she had accumulated over 5 years of captivity. All the mysteries about the facility, her purpose, her future. But there was only one question that mattered now. If I succeed, what happens to me afterwards? Do I come back here? The commander was quiet for a long moment. Let's focus on the mission first. It wasn't an answer, but it was the only answer Maya was going to get. The transport was a military aircraft unlike any Maya had ever seen. It was completely silent, invisible to radar, and could fly at speeds that defied physics. Maya sat in the cargo bay with 6 Special Forces soldiers who would be her backup team. They couldn't get close to the facility, but they would be waiting at the extraction point. As they flew through the night sky, Maya pressed her face to the small window and saw the world for the first time in 5 years. Cities sparkled below like scattered diamonds, connected by ribbons of light that marked highways and railway lines. It was beautiful and overwhelming and completely surreal after so long underground. The team leader, Captain Walsh, briefed her one final time as they approached the drop zone. You'll be on your own from the moment you hit the ground until you reach the extraction point. We can't provide support without risking the hostages. If you get in trouble, your enhanced abilities are your only backup. Maya nodded, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. Remember, Captain Walsh continued, these terrorists aren't just dangerous because of their psychic abilities. They're trained soldiers, experienced killers, and they're fighting for a cause they believe in. They won't hesitate to die to complete their mission. As the aircraft approached the drop zone, Maya closed her eyes and reached out with her enhanced telepathic abilities. Even from several kilometers away, she could sense the psychic activity around the nuclear facility. It was like a storm of mental energy, chaotic and violent and completely unlike anything she had experienced in training. Among the chaos, she detected something that made her blood freeze. The psychic signatures weren't just strong, they were familiar. Not personally familiar, but familiar in the same way that her own abilities felt familiar. These weren't just enhanced humans. These were people who had been trained the same way she had been trained. Enhanced with the same methods she had been enhanced with. These terrorists had come from facilities just like the one where Maya had spent the last 5 years of her life, Maya opened her eyes and found Captain Walsh watching her with concern. "Problem?" he asked. Maya realized she was about to face people who were essentially her brothers and sisters, enhanced humans who had been hidden away and trained just as she had been. The only difference was that they had chosen a different path when their time came. "No problem," Maya lied. "I'm ready." The aircraft's cargo door opened and Maya looked down at the darkness below. Somewhere in that darkness, 43 people were waiting to be saved and 7 enhanced humans were waiting to kill her. Maya jumped. Maya landed in the forest surrounding the nuclear facility with barely a sound, her enhanced suit absorbing the impact and muffling her movements. The night air felt strange against her skin after 5 years of recycled atmosphere, crisp and alive with scents she had almost forgotten existed. She crouched among the trees, extending her enhanced senses to map the area around her. The psychic signatures were stronger now, distinct enough that she could count them. 8 enhanced humans, just as Commander Rodriguez had suspected. But as Maya probed deeper, she realized something the intelligence reports had missed. These weren't just any enhanced humans. Their psychic patterns were too organized, too coordinated. They had been working together for years, their minds linked in a way that made them far more dangerous than 8 individuals. They functioned as a single organism, sharing information instantaneously across the entire facility. Maya moved through the forest like a ghost, using her telekinesis to bend branches away from her path and her telepathy to monitor the positions of the psychic sentries. The first one was positioned exactly where the briefings had indicated, hidden in a camouflaged shelter 500 meters from the facility's outer wall. As Maya approached, she caught fragments of the sentry's thoughts. His name was David. He was 25 years old, and he had been kept in a facility just like Maya's until 3 years ago when Cypher had recruited him. But what chilled Maya to her core was the genuine belief she sensed in his mind. David truly believed that the nuclear disaster they were planning would save the world by forcing humanity to confront the existence of enhanced humans. Maya positioned herself 30 meters from David's shelter. She could kill him from this distance, use her telekinesis to snap his neck before he even knew she was there. It would be quick, silent, and efficient. But as she prepared to strike, she hesitated. David was humming softly to himself, a song Maya recognized from her childhood. He was scared, she realized. Scared and young and convinced he was fighting for something important. He reminded her of Marcus or any of the other residents back at the facility. Maya's hesitation nearly cost her everything. David's head snapped up, his psychic senses detecting something wrong. Maya felt him reaching out with his mind, searching for the source of his unease. She threw up her mental shields just as David's telepathic probe swept over her position. For a moment, they were locked in psychic combat, David trying to penetrate her defenses while Maya struggled to remain hidden. The suit's enhancers kicked in, amplifying her abilities until she was able to overpower David's mental attack. But the effort sent a pulse of psychic energy that she knew the other terrorists would detect. Maya had seconds before the entire network of enhanced humans focused their attention on her location. She made a split-second decision that went against everything she had been taught in training. Instead of killing David, she reached into his mind with surgical precision and simply turned off his consciousness like flipping a switch. He collapsed in his shelter, alive but unconscious. Immediately, Maya felt the psychic network react to David's sudden disappearance. Alarm and confusion rippled through the connected minds as they tried to understand what had happened to their sentry. Maya used their momentary distraction to sprint toward the facility's outer wall. The next few minutes were a deadly game of hide-and-seek played at psychic speeds. Maya could sense the other enhanced humans repositioning themselves, trying to track her movements while she used every trick she had learned in 5 years of training to stay ahead of their mental searches. She reached the outer wall just as 2 of the terrorists converged on her position. Maya pressed herself against the concrete and reached out with her telepathy, trying to get a read on their intentions. What she found made her stomach lurch. The 2 approaching her weren't planning to capture her for questioning. They were planning to kill her immediately and brutally, their minds filled with tactics for dismembering enemies with telekinetic force. These weren't just enhanced humans fighting for a cause. They were killers who enjoyed their work. Maya's moral qualms about taking lives evaporated. When the first terrorist rounded the corner of the wall, She was ready for him. Her telekinetic strike hit him like an invisible sledgehammer, snapping his spine before he could even process her presence. He died instantly. The second terrorist, a woman named Sarah, according to the thoughts Maya caught from her mind, reacted with inhuman speed. She launched a psychic attack that felt like red-hot needles being driven into Maya's brain, while simultaneously using her telekinesis to hurl chunks of concrete at Maya's position. Maya rolled aside, the concrete fragments missing her by inches. She reached out with her own telekinetic abilities, grabbing Sarah and slamming her against the wall hard enough to crack the concrete. But Sarah was tougher than she looked. She shook off the impact and launched herself at Maya with enhanced physical speed. The fight that followed was unlike anything Maya had experienced in training. It was combat at superhuman speed, with psychic attacks and telekinetic strikes happening simultaneously. Maya found herself drawing on abilities she didn't even know she had, her enhanced suit amplifying her powers beyond anything she had thought possible. Sarah was skilled, but she had made the mistake of fighting with rage rather than precision. Maya used the woman's anger against her, leading her into overextending her attacks before striking with surgical accuracy. A focused telekinetic pulse to the base of Sarah's skull ended the fight instantly. 2 down, 6 to go. But Maya could sense that the remaining terrorists had learned from their companions' deaths. They were no longer hunting her individually. They were coordinating their approach, using their psychic link to function as a single, multi-bodied opponent. Maya scaled the facility's outer wall using her telekinesis to enhance her climbing ability. As she reached the top, she caught her first glimpse of the nuclear facility's interior. It was larger than the satellite images had suggested, with multiple buildings connected by underground tunnels. Finding the hostages in this maze would be nearly impossible without her enhanced psychic abilities. She dropped into the facility's courtyard and immediately felt the full weight of Cypher's psychic presence pressing against her mind. The terrorist leader was more powerful than anything Maya had encountered, his mental voice echoing in her thoughts like thunder. "Welcome to our facility, sister." Cypher's voice reverberated inside her skull. "I know what you are, where you came from, what they did to you. You don't have to be their weapon anymore. Join us and help us show the world what enhanced humans are truly capable of." Maya gritted her teeth and reinforced her mental shields. "Show me the hostages first." Cypher's laughter was like ice in her mind. "Oh, you'll see them soon enough. But first, let me introduce you to your new family." The remaining 5 terrorists emerged from concealment around the courtyard, surrounding Maya in a perfect circle. Each of them had their psychic abilities focused on her, creating a net of mental pressure that would have crushed an ordinary human mind. But Maya was far from ordinary. 5 years of training and the suit's enhancements made her more powerful than even she had realized. Instead of being overwhelmed by the psychic assault, she absorbed it, processed it, and turned it back on her attackers. "Impossible," she heard one of them whisper as her counterattack sent psychic shockwaves through their linked network. Maya smiled grimly. "You have no idea what impossible looks like. The real fight was about to begin." The courtyard erupted into chaos as Maya found herself fighting 5 enhanced humans simultaneously. Each of her opponents was a master of psychic combat, but they had never faced anyone with her combination of raw power and technical precision. The suit's amplifiers turned Maya into something beyond what any of them had imagined possible. The first terrorist, a man whose thoughts revealed his name as Marcus, not her Marcus from the facility, but someone with the same name and similar abilities, launched himself at her with telekinetically enhanced speed. Maya caught him mid-leap with her own telekinetic force and redirected his momentum into the concrete wall. The impact left a crater in the reinforced concrete. And Marcus didn't get up. 2 others attacked simultaneously, one with a psychic assault designed to scramble her thoughts while the other hurled debris from around the courtyard. Maya deflected the mental attack with practiced ease and caught the flying concrete and metal fragments in a telekinetic web, suspending them in midair before launching them back at her attackers with devastating precision. But the remaining terrorists were learning from their fallen companions' mistakes. Instead of attacking her directly, they began to coordinate their assaults, using their psychic link to create complex patterns of attack that would have overwhelmed any normal enhanced human. Maya realized she was fighting a collective intelligence, not individual opponents. Every move she made was anticipated. Every strategy she tried was countered before she could fully implement it. These weren't just terrorists. They were a perfectly coordinated psychic weapon. "You're beginning to understand," Cypher's voice echoed in her mind from somewhere within the facility. "Individually, we are strong. Together, we are unstoppable. This is what they never taught you in your little underground prison. They kept you isolated, made you fight alone, because they feared what enhanced humans could accomplish when we worked together." Maya ducked under a coordinated telekinetic strike that would have decapitated her, rolling behind a concrete barrier as psychic energy crackled through the air above her head. Cypher was right about one thing. Her training had never prepared her for this kind of coordinated assault. But Maya had advantages her opponents didn't know about. While they were focused on their psychic link with each other, Maya was using her enhanced telepathic abilities to map the entire facility. She could sense the hostages now. 43 terrified minds huddled together in a reinforced room deep within the main reactor building. She could also sense something else. A countdown timer in Cypher's mind, marking the time until some catastrophic event. They had less than 2 hours before the terrorists implemented their plan, whatever it was. Maya reached out with her precognitive abilities, pushing through the chaos of the psychic battle to glimpse possible futures. What she saw made her blood freeze. In every timeline where she failed to stop the terrorists, she saw a massive explosion, a radioactive cloud spreading across hundreds of miles, millions of people dying from radiation poisoning over the following months. The terrorists weren't just planning to kill the hostages. They were planning to cause a nuclear meltdown that would dwarf any disaster in human history. This realization gave Maya the focus she needed. She stopped thinking about the individual terrorists and started thinking about them as components of a larger system. Instead of fighting them separately, she needed to disrupt their psychic network itself. Maya emerged from behind the concrete barrier with a plan. Instead of attacking the terrorists directly, she reached out with her telepathy and began inserting false information into their psychic link. She made one terrorist believe another was moving left when they were moving right. She convinced another that Maya was behind them when she was actually in front of them. The coordinated attacks began to fall apart as the terrorists started attacking each other instead of Maya. Their perfect psychic unity became a liability as Maya's false signals propagated through their network like a virus. Within minutes, Maya had turned their greatest strength against them. 2 of the remaining terrorists took each other out with misdirected telekinetic strikes. The third realized what Maya was doing and tried to disconnect from the psychic network. But the isolation made him vulnerable to Maya's direct assault. Now only Cypher remained, and Maya could sense him moving through the facility toward the hostages. She sprinted across the courtyard, using her telekinesis to clear obstacles from her path as she raced toward the main reactor building. The interior of the building was a maze of corridors and stairwells, but Maya's enhanced senses guided her unerringly toward Cypher's psychic signature. She could feel his power growing stronger as she approached, as if he were drawing energy from some external source. Maya found him in the central reactor chamber, standing before a bank of computers that controlled the facility's nuclear processes. The hostages were visible through a reinforced window, huddled together in a sealed room that would protect them from radiation, but also trap them if the facility's systems were compromised. Cypher turned to face her, and Maya was shocked by what she saw. He looked exactly like what she had expected. A man in his early 30s with the kind of intense, focused expression she associated with enhanced humans. But what surprised her was the sadness in his eyes, the genuine pain that radiated from his thoughts. "You're too late," he said, his hands moving over the computer controls. "The process has already begun. In 30 minutes, this reactor will go critical. Nothing you do can stop it now." Maya reached out with her telepathy, trying to penetrate Cypher's mental defenses. What she found there made her stagger. Cypher's mind was filled with memories of experimentation, torture, psychological conditioning that made Maya's own training look gentle by comparison. He had been kept in a facility much worse than hers, subjected to procedures that had left him barely human. "They broke you," Maya whispered. "They made me," Cypher replied, "just like they made you. The only difference is that I learned to see the truth about what we are. We're not heroes, Maya, we're not saviors. We're weapons, created to serve masters who see us as expendable tools. The only way to free ourselves is to force the world to acknowledge our existence. Maya could see the countdown on the computer screens now. 28 minutes until the reactor reached critical mass. Even if she could defeat Cypher, she wasn't sure she could reverse the process he had started. There has to be another way, Maya said. We can expose the truth about the facilities without killing millions of innocent people. Cypher laughed, but there was no humor in it. Innocent? These people have allowed governments to hide us away, to experiment on us, to treat us like laboratory animals for decades. They vote for leaders who authorize programs like the one that created us. They fund the research with their tax dollars. They are complicit in our suffering. Maya felt the weight of his words, the terrible logic behind his actions. She had spent 5 years questioning the morality of her imprisonment, wondering if the outside world knew what was being done to people like her. But she couldn't accept that mass murder was the answer. You're right about the facilities, Maya said, taking a step closer. You're right about what they did to us. But killing millions of people won't free the enhanced humans who are still trapped. It will just give the governments an excuse to eliminate all of us. Better to die free than live as slaves, Cypher replied, but Maya could sense uncertainty creeping into his thoughts. Is that what you're offering the hostages? Freedom through death? Maya gestured toward the sealed room where 43 people waited in terror. That 12-year-old girl in there, what did she do to deserve this? For the first time, Cypher's resolve wavered. Maya pressed her advantage not with psychic force but with emotional truth. I know what it's like to lose years of your life to these programs, she continued. I know what it's like to wonder if anyone in the outside world would care if they knew we existed. But those people in that room aren't our enemies. They're victims too, just like us. Cypher's hands hesitated over the computer controls. Maya could see the countdown continuing. 23 minutes now. She had to act soon, but she sensed that the wrong move would push Cypher over the edge. You could help me stop this, Maya said. Together we could shut down the reactor, save the hostages, and find a way to expose the truth about the facilities. We could be the proof the world needs that enhanced humans aren't monsters. And then what? Cypher asked, his voice bitter. They lock us up in a different kind of facility? They study us in a different kind of laboratory? Nothing changes, Maya. Nothing ever changes for people like us. Maya felt the truth of his despair, the weight of years of manipulation and control that had shaped both their lives. But she also felt something else. A flicker of hope in Cypher's mind, a tiny part of him that wanted to believe there could be another way. Maybe you're right, Maya said. Maybe nothing will change. But at least we'll have chosen our own path instead of following the one they programmed into us. We can decide who we want to be. The countdown hit 20 minutes. In the sealed room, the hostages were beginning to panic as they sensed something was terribly wrong. Maya could feel their fear like a physical weight, 43 minds crying out for salvation. Cypher looked at the countdown, then at Maya, then at the hostages visible through the reinforced window. For a moment, his psychic defenses dropped completely, and Maya saw into the depths of his tortured soul. She saw a young man who had been broken and rebuilt as a weapon, who had convinced himself that destruction was the only path to freedom because it was the only path he could imagine. I can't stop it, he whispered. Even if I wanted to, the process is too far along. The reactor will reach critical mass no matter what we do now. Maya's heart sank, but her mind raced through possibilities. Can we evacuate the hostages? The facility is designed to contain nuclear material. All the exits will be sealed automatically when the system detects the approaching meltdown. The hostages are trapped. What about teleportation? Phase shifting? The walls are lined with a psychic dampening material. Enhanced abilities are severely limited within the containment areas. Maya closed her eyes and reached out with her precognitive abilities, desperately searching for a timeline where everyone survived. She pushed her enhanced senses to their absolute limits, exploring thousands of possible futures simultaneously. And then she saw it, a single, almost impossible path to salvation. It would require perfect timing, enormous risk, and the cooperation of the one person who had started this catastrophe. There is a way, Maya said, opening her eyes. But I need your help. Cypher stared at her. What are you talking about? The reactor's cooling system. If we can overload it at precisely the right moment, we can create a controlled release of pressure that will prevent the critical mass from being reached. But it has to be done from inside the reactor core itself. That's suicide. The radiation levels in there will kill anyone within minutes. Not if we use our telekinetic abilities to create a protective field while we work, and not if we move fast enough. Maya looked directly into Cypher's eyes. I can't do it alone. I need someone with your level of power to help maintain the protective field while I reconfigure the cooling system. Cypher was quiet for a long moment, understanding the implications. They would both likely die in the attempt, but they might save the hostages and prevent the nuclear disaster. Why? He asked finally. Why would you sacrifice yourself for them? Maya thought about her answer carefully. Because choosing to save lives instead of take them is the only way I can be sure I'm still human. The countdown hit 15 minutes. Time was running out. Cypher stared at the countdown for what felt like an eternity. 12 minutes remaining. Maya could sense the war raging in his mind. Years of conditioning and pain fighting against a spark of humanity that refused to be extinguished. Even if we succeed, he said finally, they'll never let us go. We'll spend the rest of our lives in facilities worse than the ones we came from. Maybe, Maya replied, but those 43 people will get to go home to their families. That 12-year-old girl will get to grow up. Sometimes that has to be enough. Cypher closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, Maya saw a different person looking back at her. The rage was still there, but it was controlled now, focused on a purpose beyond destruction. How do we do this? He asked. Maya quickly outlined the plan as they moved toward the reactor core's access tunnel. They would have to descend into the heart of the nuclear reactor, where radiation levels were already climbing toward lethal doses. Using their combined telekinetic abilities, they would create a protective bubble around themselves while Maya worked to manually override the cooling system. The timing has to be perfect, Maya explained as they reached the sealed access door. If we release the pressure too early, the system will just build up again. Too late, and we won't be able to stop the chain reaction. Cypher placed his hand on the biometric scanner, and the heavy door slid open with a hiss of escaping steam. Beyond lay a tunnel that descended into the glowing heart of the reactor. The Geiger counter on Maya's suit immediately began clicking rapidly. Once we go in there, there's no turning back, Cypher warned. The radiation will start damaging our cells immediately, even with our protective field. Maya nodded, checking the countdown one more time. 9 minutes. They descended into the reactor core together, their combined telekinetic abilities creating a shimmering bubble of force around them that deflected the worst of the radiation. But Maya could feel the energy eating away at their protection, requiring constant focus and power to maintain. The reactor core was a cathedral of technology, with massive cooling pipes and control systems arranged around the central uranium rods. The air itself seemed to glow with radioactive energy, and Maya's enhanced senses could perceive the atomic dance of fission taking place all around them. There, Cypher pointed to a bank of manual controls near the base of the reactor. The emergency cooling override. But Maya, look at the radiation readings. The numbers on Maya's suit display were climbing into ranges that would kill an unprotected human in seconds. Even with their telekinetic shielding, they had minutes at most before the radiation overwhelmed their abilities. Maya reached the control panel and began working frantically to reconfigure the cooling system. The manual overrides were complex, requiring precise adjustments to multiple systems simultaneously. As she worked, she could feel Cypher straining to maintain their protective field against the increasing radiation pressure. Maya, Cypher's voice was tight with effort. I can't hold this much longer. The countdown on the facility's system showed 3 minutes remaining. Maya's hands flew over the controls, making the final adjustments to the cooling system. But as she reached for the activation switch, she realized there was a problem. The manual override required 2 operators, working simultaneously from different control panels. One person had to activate the cooling system while another regulated the pressure release. It was a safety feature designed to prevent accidents, but now it was the only thing standing between them and success. Cypher, I need you at the secondary control panel, Maya called out. We have to activate both systems at exactly the same time. But releasing his concentration on their protective field would expose them both to lethal doses of radiation. Maya could see the same realization dawning in Cypher's eyes. If I let go of the field, we'll both die before we can complete the sequence, he said. Maya looked at the countdown. 2 minutes 30 seconds. Not if we're fast enough, she replied, though she knew the odds were against them. Cypher moved to the secondary control panel, his hands hovering over the switches. Maya positioned herself at the primary controls. They would have one chance to get this right. On my mark, Maya said, watching the countdown. She used her precognitive abilities to calculate the exact moment when their intervention would have maximum effect. 3, 2, 1, now. Cypher released his hold on the protective field and simultaneously activated the secondary cooling system. Maya triggered the primary override at exactly the same moment. For a few seconds, the reactor core was filled with blinding light as massive amounts of radioactive steam were vented through emergency release valves. The radiation hit them like a physical blow, and Maya felt her enhanced abilities immediately begin to fail under the assault. But the cooling system was working, drawing heat away from the uranium rods and preventing the chain reaction from reaching critical mass. Alarms blared throughout the facility as the emergency systems engaged. Maya could barely see through the radioactive haze, but the countdown on her suit display showed that the reactor was stabilizing. They had done it. Cypher collapsed first, his enhanced physiology overwhelmed by the radiation exposure. Maya managed to reach him and used the last of her telekinetic strength to create a weak protective field around them both. It wouldn't be enough to save them, but it might buy them a few more minutes. "The hostages," Cypher whispered, blood trickling from his nose. "Are they safe?" Maya reached out with her failing telepathic abilities and sensed the 43 minds in the sealed room. They were terrified but alive. The containment systems protecting them from the radiation that was killing their would-be rescuers. "They're safe," Maya told him. Cypher smiled, and for the first time since she had met him, Maya saw genuine peace in his expression. "I spent so many years thinking the only way to be free was to destroy everything. But this, choosing to save them, this feels like freedom." Maya felt her own strength fading as the radiation continued its assault on her body. The enhanced suit that had amplified her abilities was failing, its systems overwhelmed by the nuclear environment. But through her dimming senses, she could hear something that filled her with hope. Voices. Rescue teams were entering the facility, following the communications link she had maintained with Commander Rodriguez. The hostages would be evacuated safely, the nuclear disaster had been averted, and the truth about enhanced humans would finally come to light. As consciousness faded, Maya's last thought was not about the facility where she had been imprisoned, or the mission that had brought her here, or even the radiation that was killing her. She thought about the choice she had made, the decision to save lives instead of take them, and the knowledge that in the end, she had chosen who she wanted to be. Hours later, when the rescue teams finally reached the reactor core, they found two figures collapsed beside the manual control panels. Against all medical expectations, both Maya and Cypher were still alive, their enhanced physiology having provided just enough resistance to the radiation to allow their survival. They were rushed to specialized medical facilities where teams of doctors worked around the clock to treat their radiation exposure. The process would take months, and both would bear the physical and psychological scars of their ordeal for the rest of their lives. But they had accomplished something more important than their own survival. The rescue of the 43 hostages, combined with the testimony of Maya and Cypher about the secret facilities, sparked a global investigation into government programs involving enhanced humans. Within a year, facilities like the one where Maya had spent 5 years were being shut down or reformed. Enhanced humans were given legal rights and protections, and programs were established to help those who had been subjected to experimentation and conditioning. Maya never returned to the underground facility. Instead, she became an advocate for enhanced human rights, working to ensure that no one else would have to endure what she and Cypher had experienced. She often spoke about the moment in the reactor core when they had chosen to save lives rather than take them, describing it as the moment she had truly become free. Cypher, for his part, dedicated himself to finding and helping enhanced humans who had been damaged by years of government experimentation. He established support networks and safe houses, becoming the kind of leader he had always been capable of being when his power was guided by compassion rather than rage. The nuclear facility was eventually decommissioned and converted into a memorial for the victims of government-enhanced human programs. Maya and Cypher attended the dedication ceremony together, two survivors who had learned that the greatest power was not the ability to destroy, but the choice to save. As Maya stood before the memorial, reading the names of enhanced humans who had died in facilities around the world, she thought about the girl she had been when she first arrived at the underground compound. That girl had been hidden away, trained as a weapon and kept from the world for 5 years. But the woman who stood here now had chosen her own path. She had faced the darkness within herself and others, and had emerged with the knowledge that being human wasn't about the abilities you possessed, but about the choices you made with those abilities. Maya had been hidden for 5 years, summoned for a special operation, and in completing that mission, she had finally found her freedom.